I suppose we will grant the floor to Lauren to talk about Shane Wright, who is a prohibitive favorite at number 1.
We obviously know that, maybe his production has not been, where we normally see first overall picks produce in their draft years, but I don't think it's a case of whether he still deserves to go first overall or not. It's that no one else has sort of passed him yet for that spot. And for that reason, I think that's why I still have him at number 1. He's on a heater lately. He's got 8 points in his last 2 games. He's consistently kept building on his game throughout the season. And I don't think right now there's a player who's passed him yet.
And if we did have that conversation, who would we be talking about? For me, it would be maybe Frank Nazar. We could also talk about Šimon Nemec. We could talk about David Jiříček. I don't think the appetite would be there for Cooley, but the floor is open to anyone who wants to start this discussion.
I have Jiříček around this spot. He's not ahead of Wright for me, but I think he's a contestant for the number 1 overall pick. It's too bad he got injured at the World Junior Championship because he played like 8 minutes or something, maybe 10. And it was some of the best 10 minutes I've seen at the World Junior Championship for a draft eligible player. He was shutting down Canada, I think it was. He was playing good defense. He was the main transition motor of his team. And it was just really great hockey played there. His rush defense, his in-zone defense, he's super aggressive. He's better on regroups when he has options in front of him to make passes, but he's also good on retrievals, and he's improving in that aspect. Or he was improving before he got injured. So I think he has a ton of upside. Overall, he has the tools to add even more skills, and he's very physical. He's very engaged, and coaches are going to love that. So,
and Cam, I know Nemec is your boy, and I bet you want to champion his cause right now.
Yeah, of course. I obviously I still have Wright at number 1. I've had them Wright, Nemec 1, 2 most of the season, if not the entire time here. So, I've said it all before. I love his poise. I love the upside. I think he's gotten significantly better throughout the season. I think his offensive game has really popped. He's looking at, some more creative escape routes. He's making some quicker plays to transition the puck. He can still get a little bit turned around when some speedy 30-year-olds are coming down on him. He didn't have a great, like David was saying, we only got 30 seconds of Jiříček, but we got a full couple of games out of Nemec, and he wasn't great. That wasn't his best performance there, but back home playing there, he's a really standout player to me that I see as like a locked in second pair type with the intelligence. He's, not a big player, but he plays smart. He's got a good stick. I think he's going to adjust to that speed coming down the wing as he matures too. So I do see a lot of offensive upside in his game, something that we were kind of questioning a little bit earlier on in the season. He's walking the line better at the top of the umbrella on the PP, though, just trying more creative plays. I think I really like to see that. The points are starting to flow a little bit here. So yeah, he's my number 2 with a bullet. It's kind of he's been locked into that spot for me, and I don't really see anyone pushing up unless it may be Frank Nazar, and he's had a nice, really strong second half too, and I love his creativity. So he's right in that mix too at 3 for me.
Merrick, what's your take? I mean, this is your region. You've seen a lot of Jiříček. You've seen a lot of Nemec. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. You can correct me if I'm not. What's your take on this? Because I feel like the battle isn't about first overall, it's about 2 and 3, and I think it's between Jiříček and Nemec, if I'm reading the room correctly.
I've been dealing with the question who's better throughout the whole day today. Jiříček had a great game against Canada at the World Juniors. He was very aggressive. There was a moment when he was hit by Jake Neighbors 2 times, and I was like, damn, he's like struggling. But since that moment, he kind of stepped up, and he was incredible offensively. He was still looking for some opportunities. The difference I see between these two is Jiříček has probably a better certainty of joining the NHL, and the upside is probably a little bit higher than Nemec. He's more aggressive, and I like it more. And the aggressive tool and the physical style is something the NHL teams will like. I also have to mention that Nemec was part of the Slovak group at the Olympic Games in China, right? And he was tremendous during the first 2 games against Sweden and Finland. Those guys had some issues dealing with him. His gap control is amazing. He's a really smart and poised player. The difference is definitely in the style of game they're playing. So I would say I'm slightly on a Jiříček side, but it's really, really close. Depends on teams and what they want at the moment during the draft.
And then I think it's Nazar at 4.
He's obviously a very explosive, very dynamic, very creative player. But what separated him from, say, the other NTDP players was how he attacks the inside lane. Now, as the season has progressed, we start seeing him use more give and goes. He's playing more deceptively with the puck. He's moving it quicker. You see a lot of plays, especially passes off his backhand now. So he's not trying to constantly try to work the puck back to his forehand and pass through guys. The pace is really high. And of course, the defense can be hit or miss, but I think it mostly projects as a strength to the next level just because of how quick he plays, because, you know, he wants to be the guy with the puck on his stick. He's very Cole Sillinger in that sense where, you know, as the stakes get higher, the engagement is going to get higher. So for me, after Wright, he's pretty clearly the next best forward. Like, I think we're pretty much talking about a top 6 forward, almost guaranteed. You know, it's the draft, so it's never for sure, but close enough.
Evolution during the season has been really, really impressive. He was a very inefficient player at the start of the year. He tried to dangle everyone, and last year he did that too. But now, instead of attacking 3 defenders by himself, he uses his teammates. So he kicks the puck wide, he drops it. And yeah, he has better tools than the majority of players in the draft. And he's pretty dynamic. And like Mitch said, I really like his inside game. He's really great in the way he manages to find pockets of space around the slot and attacks the net at the right time. He is going to finish some scoring chances in the NHL. There's a team in our top 5 right here. We're looking for upside, but these are more certain players. Jiříček, Nemec, not Nazar, Wright. Those players should play in the NHL. If they don't make it as their top role, they're going to have a fallback game. They're going to play down the lineup too and have some impact anyway.
Like statistically, his profile is really strong. And even like the underlying like tracking data, he is the 3rd best profile of any NTP forward in the last 4 seasons. So, you know, only passed by Jack Hughes and Trevor Zegras. You know, Matt Boldy, worse results. Cole Caulfield, also worse results. Thomas Bordeleau, worse. So, you know, what Nazar is doing this year is pretty special.
It's Nazar at 4, Cooley at 5. Does that seem reasonable?
I think there's another challenger here, Slafkovsky.
Oh, wow. Didn't expect that from David.
I really changed my opinion on him. I had him outside of the top 10, but I was really wrong about him. I underrated his hockey sense, and I know it's a small sample size, the Olympics, but he showed me some things that I didn't really expect. So he showed me better anticipation, better processing of the play, and he was just as dominant, just as confident. He has the inside game, the physical game, the handling ability, and he can play around the net like he's a safe projection, and he has a ton of upside because he has a ton of skill too. So I really changed my view on him, and I think he should be in consideration for around this spot.
I watched way too much film on him, but it was great because like I went into it kind of more on David's side of things, where I was thinking it was going to be maybe a little more negative than the world expected. That I had question marks about the skating, I had question marks about the IQ, and the more I watched and like even going back to his draft -1 and kind of working through the progression, is that I became more and more impressed with his game, and then obviously culminating the Olympics, and the goals were great. You know, how often is he going to find himself walking down Broadway with all the room in the world? That didn't matter, but you know, he can burn it past a goalie when he has that spot. So the goals were cool and everything, but it was his entire game that really impressed me the most. His ability to absorb contact and spin off it and accelerate out of it. His board play, like he's so strong, and like he's just really aware of where his body is, where the other opponent is on his hip pocket, and how he can utilize that. So he's got those fake cuts. He can lean into it, and then he's got the depth to come out.
He brings energy to every shift, and where I see a big advantage of drafting Slafkovsky is when the playoff part of the season comes, because he plays with such force. He's an incredible power forward. I
think his stride has actually come a long way this season alone too. So, you know, in that article I was showing where, you know, he's up on the balls of his feet, he's trying to accelerate, and he's really upright, and he's not extending his leg, and he's just wasting so much power. And then, you know, you look at him now, and he's deeper down. It's still not great. It's still not perfect. Like, you know, I'd probably get up around a 5 now. But it's an improvement that you can see that he's obviously focusing on that aspect of his game. And I love to see that out of players that have that wherewithal to be like, okay, I'm big, I'm strong, I can work the boards really well, I have a nice shot, but I need to improve my skating. And he's clearly trying to work on that. And his passing game, I also enjoy his passing game too. He's got soft hands. He can set up his dekes really well, but he can also set them up, draw those players into him, and then make a nice soft touch across the way too. So I think he absolutely deserves in this. Like when I said that group, like for me, it's Nemec, Nazar, Cooley, Slafkovsky, Jiříček. Like that is a group in my mind. And then like, you know, Matejčuk's kind of right on the cusp of it as well. But you know, you can put those guys in any order for my mind, and I think that's fair.
What's the group's take on this? Like, do we have anybody who would vouch for Cooley ahead of Slafkovsky?
I am ahead, one spot ahead right now.
Mitch, do you have any thoughts on this?
Well, I mean, it's pretty much just a different version of the Nazar Cooley argument. Just you're projecting things slightly differently, but it's risk averse being, taking a little bit of a safer projection. Of course, Cooley is kind of inverting that a little bit because he has decided that he's Mr. Highlight Reel every single shift now.
Why?
Just to piss you off, David.
It's one of these things where it's going to come down to who's better in the NHL is going to come down to the team that drafts them. It's going to be super specific. Slafkovsky is going to be the type of guy, a team that wants to kind of slow things down and is willing to try to build offense through movement and stuff like that from the corners. And Cooley is going to be a little bit more of a versatile fit for what most teams are trying to do. And of course, with Slafkovsky, you have to have a high tolerance for risk.
Which I think lends itself to Cooley, probably. Does it not? The more sound projection.
I'm fine with both. I just wanted to explain myself with Cooley. We talked a bit about the Nazar becoming more efficient as the season went on. Cooley just did the reverse path. So I think he overplays right now. He overestimates his own skill. It doesn't change his projection that much. He's still the same smart connector, projects as a defensive player too. He's going to be a playmaker on the line. And I think he's going to be smarter about his plays as he rises in levels. It's just right now that he's experimenting, and it has a positive aspect too because he's also expanding his skills. I think he's a better manipulator right now than he was at the start of the season. And it's probably because he's trying so many plays. So I don't mind if we have him at 5 and Slafkovsky at 6.
So why don't we do that then? Cooley, then Slafkovsky.